This is the law of detachment, an ancient principle that says that the less you are attached to outcomes, the more power you have. And I'm going to teach you how to master it in real life so you can do things like walk into any room and command presence without trying, pursue your goals with zero anxiety about failure, and make decisions that others agonize over in seconds. Enjoy. Look, there are two things you are going to need to know to be able to pull this off. First, you need to learn how to rewire your brain's response system with a brutal mental training protocol that strips away reactive thinking entirely. And then you need to forge that skill in the fire by using the pressure test method. In this video, I'm going to teach you both so that you can go and actually apply the law of detachment into your life like I did, which allowed me to go from 89 pounds to gaining almost 50 pounds in a couple of years, from going from diagnosed depressed, chronically socially anxious, chronically stressed, to curing all of that, going from chronically phone addicted and playing 12,000 hours of Fortnite in just 3 years to actually living my life, working on this channel, being married, having fulfilling relationships, and living a fulfilling life. The first step to doing this is rewiring your brain's response system. Let me be honest with you, most men are slaves to their own reactions. Something does not go their way and they start to panic. Someone criticizes them and they start getting defensive immediately. An outcome appears uncertain and they spiral into anxiety. This is slavery. There's no other way to put it. You are being controlled by external circumstances and you have absolutely no top-down control. The worst part is, you don't even fucking realize this half the time. But the issue is not actually your circumstances. The issue is your neurological program. Your brain has been trained since your childhood, most likely, to attach significance mainly to outcomes. If you win the game, typically you take that as being valuable. If you lose the game, you take it as being worthless. If you get the girl, you take it as being desirable. If you get rejected at all, you take it as being inadequate. If you pass the test, you're intelligent. If you fail the test, you're incompetent. You get my fucking point. I don't want to nerd out here. But here's what nobody's telling you. This programming is actually destroying your ability to operate at peak capacity, as normal as this programming is. Because when you are attached to your outcomes, you introduce fear into every action. That could be the fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of judgment. And as we all know, especially as a man, fear makes you hesitant. It makes you reactive. It makes you weak. That's why you do all this bullshit you do. So how do you actually rewire this? How do you strip away reactive thinking and install attachment as your default operating system? How do you build the law of detachment into your life? I remember the first time I genuinely understood this. I was in a situation in my life a couple years ago, and I'm not being exaggeratory when I'm saying this at all. You know, were to be able to ask my friends, they would tell you the fucking truth. This is the fucking truth. I was in a situation in my life where at 16, 17, everything was on the line. That situation, it's going to sound really silly, but it was making the decision to break up with the girl I was with at that time. It was my first, I guess you could say, technically real relationship, if you want to count it as that. It was a couple years long. And I remember for a month or two, I had been obsessing over this decision for weeks, running every scenario, calculating every risk, torturing myself with what ifs, literally waterboarding myself in fear of throwing away 3 years and starting over. The reason I was so split on this decision is because it was so clear to me that it was necessary. Because of shit she did, I was literally sent to court and threatened with jail or a $10,000 fine. I put my family's life and my life in danger. And above all that, and I say this with all respect, and I hope she's not watching, she was a complete and utter bitch. And it made it fucking intolerable to be alive every single day. But being the coward I was genuinely afraid to throw away 3 years of my life for nothing, quote unquote. Until something shifted. It was like the day we broke up, and I could already tell that she herself was also going to break up with me. And in that moment, something, I can't tell you why, just shifted. And I didn't care if I broke up with her or not. Because in that moment, I feel like I realized that whatever happens, I'm gonna be fucking alive, nigga. I mean, I will handle it, right? I'll live. I'm gonna continue breathing. You know, this outcome is just, it's not gonna define me. And the moment I realized that, the decision became obvious. And it worked. With all due respect, now I'm married to a far better woman who is far less bickering. And I can see clearly that clinging on to that relationship would have been a really stupid fucking move for me to make. And so the way you rewire this, like I did in that moment, if you want to do this manually, without having to go through the literal hell incarnate I went through is you use a brutal mental training protocol that most men will never have the discipline to follow. But if you can do it, it will change everything. Here's how it works. Every single time you feel any hesitation, any single time you feel any decision that freezes you, every single time you can tell that you're avoiding some action, every single time you can think about any tough conversation you're putting off, or every catastrophic what if your brain throws at you, whatever it may be, I want you to start building the mental habit of running it through this one question. If the worst case scenario happened, would I be okay? Not would I like it, because you probably fucking won't, but would I be okay? Would I continue breathing? Would I continue waking up every single day and letting that beautiful fuck ass sun shine on my face? Say, for example, you have this catastrophic what if running through your head. What if I quit my job and my business that I'm trying to start up fails and I end up broke? What I want you to do is I want you to run the litmus test. If that happened, would you be okay? Yes. You may suffer financially a bit. You may get yourself into some real hot shit, but you would figure it out, or you'd have the opportunity to figure it out, and you'd always be able to get another job. You'd always be able to adapt. You are not going to die directly because of those actions. The reason that this works so well, even though it sounds so stupid and you feel like you're wasting your time right now, is because your brain is constantly running a threat assessment program in the background. I'm not making this shit up. This is science. I'll put it up right here. And it's running this program 24/7. And when you avoid something, when you sit in indecision, when you let fear paralyze you, your brain will interpret that as, this must be dangerous. We are treating this like a threat. So we must fire up the fight or flight response as if it is a genuine threat. And so your nervous system will start dumping cortisol, your heart rate will elevate, your thinking will narrow, you will lose top-down control from your prefrontal cortex, and you will start thinking from your amygdala, which is known scientifically as your lizard brain. It's your impulsive brain. It doesn't actually consider long-term results. You will start pretty much working on autopilot, and you'll enter a survival mode over something that is just not life-threatening at all. Right? You'll enter survival mode over something as stupid as whether I should order a Big Mac or a double cheeseburger 10 times today. The litmus test shuts that down because it forces your brain to confront the actual worst case scenario. Not this vague, inflated version that you have been running in the background, the genuine worst case scenario. And your brain realizes, I actually would be fine, right? The dopamine system in your brain that's constantly trying to predict how good or how bad something's going to be would realize that its prediction of how bad it would be was way off. And so it would lower the fear response within you. The litmus test, it genuinely will cut through every layer of bullshit your mind wraps around fear. And it will expose how much energy you are burning on threats that do not actually exist. When you can do those two things, and when you can make that your default operating network, you would have mastered the law of indifference, and you would build a fuck you mindset.